Because if you just come in and say, this is what I want,
Yeah.
you're gonna probably get a pretty quick no.
Maybe it's a train wreck and you all laugh about it afterwards.
You show up at your office and there's no desks anymore, and they're like, where are the desks? And your employer's like, well, we're just not doing desks anymore. It's like, well, that's not great. You have to explain to them and show them why. And I think once they get on board with that, I mean, the decisions like that are so much easier.
Hey, my name's Adam. I'm with WorshipTools, and I'm with our partner brands, David with Sunday Sounds, Matt with Loop Community. We wanted to talk about just how to implement some change or some improvements on your worship team, and just how to deal with some pushback or challenges that you may get from other people on the worship team, or even senior leadership at your church. And so these are questions we get a lot from customers on our team, like, hey, we'd love to implement this, but it's just a challenge with the environment that I'm in. So I want to just talk about that and bring some solutions and some ideas. So
We didn't even really plan this video out. We've been shooting videos over the last couple of days, and we were having a conversation with one of the people here helping with the shoot about his own church. And they're not using a presenter right now. They're not using some pieces of technology that they think could make things simpler and smoother for them. But the language around it is just like, well, we've always kind of done it this way. Why is just sort of, well, this is how we do it. And even as we do the Worship Innovators Conference every year, we have lots of folks that will come up to us and say, I love all the things I'm learning about what my church could do, but I feel a little discouraged because I know when I go back home and I talk to the decision makers, they're just going to say, well, we don't do it that way. So it's kind of like, I feel like an abstract fight, which can be really discouraging. Like, it's just sort of a general no without really like any discussion, so how do you push through that? Just sort of like, I think it's going to be a no, and I'm not even going to be really given a reason.
I think a lot of times leaders can take the lazy way out by just enforcing the change. So they go to a conference and they see like, okay, here's a new app we can use. And then they come back and they just say, all right, we're doing this.
Right.
And then they get a ton of pushback and they're shocked why.
Right.
But it's because they never took the time to just explain why. Like, here's why we're doing it. One of our team members gave an example earlier today. Like, you show up at your office and there's no desks anymore. And they're like, where are the desks? And your employer's like, well, we're just not doing desks anymore. It's like, well, that's not great.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing of like, okay, your band shows up and all of a sudden they're doing in-ear monitors. And the team's like, why? And like, what we were doing before worked so well.
Right. We're just not doing floor wedges anymore.
Yeah, we're just not doing it.
Right.
You have to explain to them and show them why. And I think once they get on board with that, I mean, the decisions like that are so much easier.
Yeah, and one of the ways I think to do that is to share what inspired you to even try it. So if it was a conference talk or it was a certain video, share that out with your team and just say, hey, we're going to give this a try. I would like to hear what you think,
I think giving people an out is also an interesting idea.
Yeah.
Of like, hey, can we just, we never used tracks before ever. I really want to use tracks. Here's why. Here's the problem. Here's a solution that I think might help us. Can we just try it just for like one rehearsal? And we're going to try it just with one song. But if it doesn't work, then we're not going to do it. It's fine. And I think if you do it and it goes well, like, people are going to be like, oh man, we sound great. Let's keep doing it. And then they understand the why.
It's that fear of the unknown, I think, a lot of the time that makes the objection feel much bigger than it actually is. The worst case scenarios for a lot of these things, especially if you do it in a safe environment like a rehearsal, instead of a Sunday morning, are quite low. You try the song for 4 minutes, maybe it's a train wreck, and you all laugh about it afterwards. And then you as the worship leader regroup. You figure out like, why didn't it work? Maybe my drummer's not that great on tempo, or maybe our in-ear monitor system wasn't quite dialed in and people couldn't hear what they needed to hear. But the stakes should actually be as low as possible when you're trying to implement these new things.
There's also the flip side of the coin of not everything should be implemented. There are so many options out there and so many things you could do. And just because you can doesn't mean that you should.
Right.
And we do need to be mindful of, being good stewards of the church resources and really doing our due diligence to make sure that we're choosing products that are going to be using the church's dollar the best.
I think you need to be really confident in why you think you should do something, not just like, well, it seems like all the churches are doing it, using a piece of technology or a piece of gear. I guess it probably seems like self-serving because I'm like the Sunday keys guy, but I see this with like big, expensive keyboards that people see other churches using, and they just assume that, well, that's the way to do it. and then they might buy a big expensive new keyboard and then realize they don't have anyone on their team who has the time or skill to invest in maximizing that investment. So like maybe don't buy an incredibly powerful new computer for video editing unless you have a great video editor.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
What about when it comes to wanting to make a resource or a financial investment in a new tool and you need to get permission from leadership at the church? How would you recommend going about that?
I mean, I think in the case where you're going to be asking to make an investment, you need to be able to talk about it in that kind of language, not just saying like, hey, I need to spend $2,000 because we need it.
It's like, well, why?
Well, what's the return on investment there? Like, what is that going to do to further the ministry of your church? If it's like new in-ears, maybe you can say, well, my band doesn't feel very confident because the existing system we have is lower quality. So they feel like they don't sound as good as they could.
Or they can't hear themselves sing.
They play with less confidence, and the congregation can tell. So yeah, it is $2,000, but we can use the system, I think, for the next 8 to 10 years. And just think about how many worship services they're going to feel more confident because of that $2,000 investment. You know, having that language in your head of like, we're spending money, yes, it's an expense, but then what's the potential return? And you have to be realistic. You know, don't promise salvations because of the new in-ears, but you can talk about like, it will make it that much more easy for a new volunteer to come onto the team and be likely to succeed. Like, hopefully the worship team will grow because of that.
Like clearly laying out what the problem is that you're facing and then why this will be the solution to it. Because if you just come in and say, this is what I want, you're gonna probably get a pretty quick no. It's like, well, we don't need that. But explain why we need it and what it will return. I think another great way to get your pastor on board is to show that you're being wise in how you're stewarding the money as well. And so maybe that is kind of like you do at home, where you go through your credit card statement and you look to see like, what are we paying for that we're not using? And there's a lot of stuff that churches are maybe paying for that's like, you know what, we're not actually maximizing the full potential of that. And we don't need that. Like maybe there's software out there that actually is cheaper that will just do what we need.
Well, we understand, you know, you don't have loads of time to commit to just constantly analyzing every decision that you're making, but maybe this could just be like a yearly practice where you just say, hey, I'm working on the budget for the next year. What did I do last year? Is there anything that I need to ask for more of? Anything that I could do with less of? And then that also kind of just positions you, if you are making a big ask for a new budget item, to say like, hey, look, I'm trying to be really intentional and make sure that we're spending the church's finances wisely. Look, we know that affecting change at your church can be difficult, and it's super common to run into resistance from all areas, sometimes unexpected areas. But just the fact that you're watching this video and taking the time to invest and hopefully grow in your skills in navigating these areas, I think it makes it that much more likely that you're going to be able to succeed in improving the way that your church approaches change.
Yeah, and I think what I'd say is that, you know, there's a lot of things you could do, and it doesn't mean you have to do it all at once. So start simple, start small, maybe just find one thing that you want to implement at your church that's going to take your worship one step closer to just more excellence. And I think you're going to see that impact grow over time.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, David. Let us know in the comments the one thing that you want to improve on or bring to the next level for your team. What about when it comes to wanting to make a resource or a financial investment in a new tool and you need to get permission from leadership at the church? How would you recommend going about that?
Buy it. Just buy it.
Just buy it.
Ask forgiveness.
Yeah.
That's where the new buy now, pay later option
Yeah, you just
comes in.
Klarna
Okay,
that
was
son
that a
of
bad
gun.
question?
Yeah.